By a show of hands, how many people in the room are active on social media or are involved with organizations that are active on social media? Show of hands. Excellent. So please note this important slide, just quickly, you can maybe jot this down, send it off to your respective organization or log into your own accounts. Our Twitter handle is @Alliance4RD. Our hashtag for this event is #MegaRegionSummit, and you can follow us on Facebook. We are going to be posting on Facebook throughout the day, so we do ask again that you maybe share those postings and really kind of get the word out about what's happening today. And speaking of today, when we decided again to engage in the 6th summit, Jerry Boyle, I want to give credit where credit was due, wanting to set the bar very high, said to me, you know, Kelly, this year, Foxconn there's a big buzz around Foxconn. There's something really exciting happening. And our stakeholders all over the region, they've heard of it, they may understand what they're doing or they may not, but we need to hear directly from Foxconn, make it happen. Oh, okay, Jerry. So then the phone calls to our stakeholders in Southeast Wisconsin, many of whom are in the audience today, and a profound thank you. And one in particular, Dr. Carmel Ruffalo. Carmel, if you could stand for a moment. Yes. Carmel is one of the founders of the Alliance and has been struggling with some health issues, and she really is quite a champion to be here today. So if we could please have a round of applause for Dr. Carmel Ruffalo. So with Carmel's help and many others here in the room, I was able to connect with Dr. Lewis Wu, who I found to be, you know, so approachable and charming. And Dr. Wu, thank you again for agreeing to help kick off the summit today. And we are also very, very pleased to have Mike Lovell, who back before taking the lead at Marquette was again really at the table day one with the Alliance. So we're very, very proud to have you here today, and I'd like to invite Mike Lovell and Lewis Wu to the stage.
Thank you. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Good.
I must tell you this story first. I was asked to speak, but I know that I'm not a very good speaker, so I need someone to help me out, you know, to jog me memories, ask the right question and things like that. So I could not think of a better person except Mike. You know, we have known each other for at least almost a year now, right? Yeah, and so I have a lot of respect for him. But do not underestimate the bargaining power of a president of a university. And he said, unless I give him half an hour, out of my half an hour to talk about Marquette, then he would not be able to do so. So at the end, we bargained I would give him 15 minutes to talk about Marquette. So Mike, why don't you tell us about Marquette University?
Well, thank you, Lewis, and thanks for being here. And I will keep the remarks about Marquette brief because I know everyone here wants to hear more about Foxconn. But Marquette is we were founded in 1881. We're a Catholic Jesuit institution in Milwaukee. We have about 12,500 students, and most people know about us because of our basketball. As a matter of fact, when Lewis first got here, I gave him a gift. Do you want to talk about what gift I gave you?
In fact, we framed it up and put it in my office, right? Yeah. So that would be a Marquette basketball jersey. Yeah.
And I told Lewis I'd interview him today because if he wore the jersey up here when we talked, but he didn't keep us in the bargain. So Lewis, when we think about how exciting the past years has been for us in Southeast Wisconsin, really within the mega region. A lot of people have now heard the name Foxconn, but may not really know exactly what Foxconn is. So maybe just give us a little bit of a background about the company, how large it is, when it was founded, and a little bit maybe about Terry. Yeah.
Sure. So I think most of you might not have heard of Foxconn. We founded about 45 years ago in Taipei, Taiwan. And now we have become one of the, not one of the, I think we are the largest consumer electronic manufacturers in the world. If you add up the revenue of the number 2 to all number 11, their total revenue is less than ours. So when we said that we're the number 1 consumer electronic manufacturers, we are not kidding you. And last year, our revenue is about $157 billion. So we were ranked as number 24 in the global 500 companies. And if you look at us as a nation, and I would go to that a little bit, of course we are not a nation, but we would be number 56 or 57 in terms of GDP. We look at us as a revenue. The reason why I mentioned that as a nation is that we employ about 1.3 to 1.4 million people. So that's quite a lot of people. And also that the average age would be from 18 to 25. So I'm trying to be one of the outliers to kind of add up the average a little bit more. Yeah. Otherwise, they would be all very young. Yeah. And what more I can tell you about Foxconn? We certainly have a lot of ideas, new ideas, to be the high technology companies, the high technology providers in the world. So we have been very successful doing that for the last 40-something years. Yeah.
Well, great. So for those of us in southeastern Wisconsin, we are seeing actually the changes in terms of the construction of the site, right off of I-94. Maybe tell us a little bit about the facilities you're making when they come online and what you expect to do in them.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to make it very clear that we are not really building a factory in Wisconsin. And the reason is following. If we're building a factory, we should not be doing that in Wisconsin. In fact, we should not be doing that in anywhere in US. The reasons are very simple, that the construction costs of any facility in the US is about 2.8 times that if we build the same thing in Asia. If we look at the average wage of assembly line workers, the US is about 5 times more expensive. Yeah. So unless we are doing manufacturing something very different, that maybe there is no market here today, that you might be able to afford that kind of cost structure. Yeah. So the thing that we are trying to build in Wisconsin is really a high-tech hub. So that, again, when we talk about that, I need to share with you the vision of my chairman and also with Governor Walker of Wisconsin. I think when they met up about early April of last year, I think they came upon the idea that we should build something like a Wisconsin Valley in Wisconsin, so that would become one day to rival the Silicon Valley in the West Coast or the Boston Corridor in the East Coast. The reason why they see that could be a reality, why is it so exciting to build a high technology hub that could one day rival Silicon Valley or the Boston Corridor, is the following. And how many of you are from Wisconsin? So quite a few. So you would know that how beautiful Wisconsin is. But at the same time, the cost of living is relatively inexpensive, especially compared to that in the West Coast. I was told that a fresh graduate in terms of engineering discipline in Wisconsin, you might earn about $60,000 a year, right? A fresh graduate. In the West Coast, if you're lucky to be hired by Apple or Google, it should start from $125,000 to $150,000, right? But do not forget how much you have to pay for housing, right? In the Silicon Valley, it's lucky if you can buy a house under $2 million, which you might have to require you for at least 1 hour transit, one way every day. Right? In Wisconsin, I was told that you can buy a very decent house, $200,000 to $300,000, which is probably a few minutes away from where you work. Right? So I think as an alliance, Kelly, I think we should continue to tell people that you have to looking at the total cost of living or the total cost of owning your own career. So not only just the pay per se, but also the opportunity to work in Wisconsin, and also plus the cost of living, to make sure that the standard of living is not the same, would be certainly higher than the West Coast or than the East Coast. So for any kind of high technology industry, you really need a couple of things. The first things, of course, is the human beings, the human talents, is the people. If you look at Wisconsin, we have probably one of the best private universities, Marquette. So I remember that, yeah. And if you're looking at the mega region, including Chicago, of course, we have University of Chicago. So those will be the prime example of private university, which will be similar to Stanford in the Silicon Valley. If you look at the UW system, again, will be similar to the UC system in California, right? So every year alone, we know that in Wisconsin, we have close to 300,000 students, faculty, and staff that we can take advantage of. And plus, if we want to reach out to the mega region, then you have Illinois, you have Indiana, you have certainly Chicago to tap on, right? So all we need now is really a company, someone that can become a catalyst to build up a critical mass of either scientists or research engineers, or put in enough investment to make it happen. So I think that's one of the objectives of the to put together a Wisconsin Valley Science and Technology Park. So let me come back to what we are trying to build there. The first thing we're going to build is a Generation 6 TFT fab. Now to you, what is TFT? TFT is basically the thin film so that we make it into glasses. That's what we call substrates. So if you look at I think most of you will own a smartphone. So the display, the monitor, is made by a substrate. We look at the television, you look at the television display, that's made by the substrate, right? So what we are saying is that for any kind of high technology devices, one of the critical components has to be display, right? As Foxconn, we are the largest investors in display. In 2016, we bought 66% of Sharp. So we have the latest display technology that can rival that of South Korea or any company in Taiwan or in mainland China. So we want to build a fab of that in Wisconsin. But somebody would ask me the questions, why not Generation 8, why not Generation 9, why not Generation 10.5, why Generation 6? So please bear in mind, the larger the number doesn't mean the better it is. In this case, the larger the number simply means is that the size of the display that is going to be manufactured by that particular fab. So let's take 10.5 for example. The size of the substrate, that is the glass, that can be manufactured is about 9 feet 7 inches long and 11 feet 1 inch wide. As versus Generation 6, that would be 4 feet 11 inches and also 6 feet and 1 inches. Of course, I can just make up those numbers because you guys would not know anyway. But for a change, I can share with you, size doesn't matter. Right? It's a technology that brings in. So what we are trying to set up is the first, a unique one. Nobody has ever done that in US. We're setting up the TFT fab in Wisconsin that will be able to help us to continue to develop new generation of displays, and plus advanced semiconductor packaging technologies on glass. So that's what we're trying to build. With that, we'll be able to work with a lot of universities, academics, research institutions to bring along a lot more critical mass of development of new products.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I would just say you talk about being a catalyst. And I can just tell you, I'm in my 5th year at Marquette, and in the past year, I've met more with my colleagues at the other universities, both in the technical system and with the university system, what you're going to hear about in the next session. So you're definitely filling that role. One of the things that you've already done is you recently announced a $100 million partnership with the University of Wisconsin-Madison. You're in constant discussion.
That's part of your system, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you've actually, since arriving, you've been on our campuses almost on a daily basis. When you think about what you're trying to accomplish by partnering with universities in this way, what do you hope to get out of these partnerships?
Well, first of all, if we are serious about a Wisconsin Valley Science and Technology Park, or the concept of Wisconsin Valley to one day rival that of Silicon Valley, we cannot do it alone. Right? Even though we are committed to hire or to create 13,000 jobs, but 13,000 is nothing. Right? So we have to take advantage of the deep learning, the deep knowledge in the university systems in Wisconsin and also beyond. So we see that partnering with the university, partnering with the technical colleges, and partnering with private universities is the must. It certainly is a thing that we have to do. Otherwise, we would not be able to create something like Wisconsin Valley.
So one thing you allude to, the jobs, the 13,000 jobs. Obviously, Foxconn is going to create a lot of jobs themselves, but we've also heard a lot about the supply chain that will develop around you. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you expect to happen over the next few years?
Sure. I think maybe I should talk about the creation of 13,000 jobs. I think a lot of people might have misunderstood that, since we are, basically a manufacturer, so would we be hiring mostly assembly line workers out of the 13,000? And the way we're looking at it is that it's probably about 75 to 25 split. So I would imagine 75% would be knowledge workers, 25% would be assembly line workers to start with. And then some of you might be interested to know why that is the case. Because I believe that there is a certain national division of labor. I think in China or in Asia, we still see the benefit of labor more on the side that is relatively inexpensive. But in US, the benefit of labor is not on its purely on the economic side of it being cheap labor. Right? In US, we have a huge, abundantly available pool of talents. So that's why we want to take advantage of. So that's why the split of what we want to hire, or the job we want to create, would be at least 75% would be knowledge workers. Another 25% would be only assembly line workers. And about supply chain in our past, at least in Asia, every one job we create, there would be another 4 jobs that the supply chain would create. Yeah. So most likely than not, the supply chain will follow us to come to Wisconsin to invest. But that would be most likely a year later than after our project is complete. So I'm very excited to see the supply chain coming over. Yeah.
So and within that, obviously, will be some companies proximate right on your campus or near your campus. For those of us not in Southeast Wisconsin, maybe thinking more in the mega region, how do you think Foxconn could impact, say, the greater Chicago area?
Well, first of all, in terms of talents, given the tight labor market today, and so we are looking for talents all over the place. And certainly, I would see that there should be commuter train from Chicago all the way to Wisconsin Valley Science and Technology Park. And so basically would be, having the best talents in Chicago who want to join us to work in Wisconsin, but they still want to have the city life in Chicago, that they can have the best of 2 worlds. So talents alone, I would see that we'll have to reach out to go beyond Wisconsin per se. And certainly we have to reach out to go beyond just the southern part of Wisconsin, but to Madison, to other part of the city. That's why we are also building the Foxconn Place to attract them. Right? So not only just a physical building, but also to attract more people to join us, even not exactly in the Milwaukee area.
So we heard this morning that how unemployment's are near record low. It seems to me that what you talked about earlier about how attractive it may be for someone in Silicon Valley or Boston to the cost of living, quality of life to come. Do you have any efforts underway of actually bringing people from outside of this region, to Silicon Valley?
Yes, I think that we have a very concerted effort, especially to attract veterans. So we are participating in the next 6 months or so. There are about 11 veterans hiring events in their own military bases. Some would be in the South Korea, Japan, and also in Germany, right? And there will be also many military bases that will be participating in that kind of event. And at the same time, when we make an announcement, I think a month or two ago, we put together a $100 million venture fund together with Northwestern Mutual and plus Aurora Healthcare and also Johnson Control, right? To make sure that we will begin to help startup companies, not only in Wisconsin, but at least in this region, to be aware of the high technology potentials that Foxconn, the Wisconsin Valley, can bring about. So we are seeing that there are many ways to reaching out to the startup companies, to the new generation of entrepreneurs.
So, in those same lines, you recently announced a smart cities competition.
That's right.
Can you talk a little bit about what that is and what you hope to accomplish with it?
Well, there are a couple of things at least. One is that we believe that the high technology has made an impact in a lot of industries, be it in trade, in medical care, and even transportations. But we see that there's a very little movement in terms of the constructions. So we see that there is a lot of new ways that we can bring the internet technology that include cloud computing, mobile devices, the Internet of Things, and also the big data, artificial intelligence, and automation and robot into the construction business. Right? That's part of the smart construction, as part of the smart living, smart future. And we should also see that in the future, we should bring a lot more technology into our home, right? So that could impact our health, especially in preventive medicine. Just imagine today, how many of you would do an annual medical checkup? There's still quite a few. But instead of medical checkup on an annual basis, why can't we do it on a daily basis? Right? Daily basis in terms of not necessarily you have to go to see the doctor, but everything you eat, every time you take a leak, that can be documented, right? That can be analyzed by the IoT and can be going up to the cloud computing, right? They can put together the big data to analyze how one changes over time, right? That's what preventive medicine is all about. And mind you, preventive medicine would be a lot more cost-effective than medical care, that you would only see the doctor when you are not feeling well. So that's how I see the future living, the smart future.
So it's one of the things we've talked about since you've arrived in this part of the country, this part of the world.
You didn't mean last night, right?
No. There's been a number of things culturally, other things that have surprised you. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that Foxconn has had coming to the U.S. for the first time?
Is there any media in the audience?
Always media.
Always media. Yeah. To put everything in context, please, Miss Journalist. So you have to put it in context. I was asked the question by Mike. I really didn't want to answer it.
Yeah,
but you can't just put me, Yeah, I was a little bit taken aback by how divisive our society becomes, right? I would imagine a company like Foxconn, who want to create 13,000 high-paying knowledge worker jobs in Wisconsin, with $10 billion investment in the next 5 to 10 years. I would imagine people would roll out the red carpet and to say, hey, Mr. Terry Guo or Louis Wu, pat our back and say, what can we help you out? How to make your life easier? How can we make you to be part of the community? You guys did that. I really appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. Yeah. But not everybody, right? And I'm very surprised. And some even saying that, we are here to steal the water from Lake Michigan. And I thought Lake Michigan is relatively big, right? Yeah. So we were accused of doing so. But fortunately, we have this plan to set up a zero liquid discharge in our factory. That means is that we will only use the water once. They will make sure that it would continue to be recycled, to be reused again and again, right? And also, everywhere we go, we are part of that community. Look at how beautiful Wisconsin is. And I don't want to make the place worse than when I first walked in, right? So it's in our hearts, in our guts to do the right thing. Look at even in China with very little environmental protections. We are building a huge solar farm in China and also either build it by ourselves or working with our partners. By the end of 2019, we will have sufficient electricity, solar farm to produce electricity which would be close to half a gigabyte, would be 500 million watts of electricity. Right? So we do that in China. We certainly want to do that in Wisconsin. Right? And so we are here to stay. We are just not investing. We are not trying to make a quick buck. It's very difficult to make a quick buck by investing $10 billion. By employing 13,000 people, there's no quick buck to be made, right? So if you ask me, I think I just can't understand.
Yeah. Sorry about the tough question. Maybe something a little easier. Right now, you're having some growing pains, as you're trying to move into the States for some. How can people here in the audience today maybe help or how can we work together to best help you be successful?
Wow. The number one priority for 2018, for the remaining of 2018, we have about 2.5 months, right? About 2 months and 10 days or so. I want to hire as many people as possible, right? So we are running hiring fairs left and right in Wisconsin, almost like every weekend. We do that on Saturdays, so make sure that people who are working will be able to come and see us, to talk to us and see what the opportunities are. And I think it's too late for the re-elections. But if you guys haven't voted, you should go out and vote, to vote for people who are pro-business, for people who are trying to make a difference in Wisconsin, right? That would certainly be helpful, yeah, because that would be helpful for the longer term. Yeah, because I believe that when there is economic development, I think that's what the alliance is all about, right? And the people would be better off. And so we can do that all together, yeah. And normally I would ask you guys to just go out and tell this Foxconn story and tell them that, we are not an evil empire, right? We actually want to do good things here. Yeah. Oh, on that, maybe I should tell you one more thing, People would imagine and saying that we are getting $4 billion handout, and some said $4.5 billion handout. And let me tell you this, we have invested close to $200 million now to level the ground. We have about 3,000 acres. Just by leveling at the first 1,000 acre. So we spent about $100 million there. And we also built the first building and to house some of our workers there. And also we set up the 611 in Milwaukee as our North America headquarters. So with all that, we spent about $200 million. We have not had one dime from the state of Wisconsin. Right? So the agreement with the state of Wisconsin is that we would invest first. we would hire the people first. So at the end of every year, we will submit an audited report. Of course, WEDC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Board, would ask a third party to go back and check all the data, make sure we have the payroll and things like that. Only after that, we will have the subsidy to us. So it's not a handout. It's basically a performance-based subsidy. So I hope that you are very well aware of that. So when somebody tells you we're getting a handout, please tell them we are not. Yeah.
So Louis, kind of just enough time for one more thing to maybe wrap up. What one thing would you want everyone here to know or say about Foxconn as they walk out of the room?
Well, I see the tremendous opportunity for all of us work together, especially for the mega regions, to build what we call a Wisconsin Valley, right? I think this is really the hope of the future for the mega regions, led by so many good private and public universities. We have plenty of talents. We have beautiful scenery here. We have the most pristine living conditions in Wisconsin and also in the mega regions. I don't see why we cannot provide a better working and also better living opportunity than the folks in Silicon Valley or the folks in East Coast. So I wish that we can all work together and to make this happen. It's not going to be 1 year. It's not going to be 2 years. It could be 5, 10, 20, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years dream. But I think we can make it happen. But we need the leadership to make it happen. Leadership is not only from the political world, from the leadership from the private sector, right? The leadership from the universities. When all of us work together, I think we will make it happen.
Well, that's a great segue to our next panel discussion about how the universities are working together.
They pay me a lot of money to do this.
So why don't we all thank Louis for your wonderful comments.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry about the tough question.
No.
Nice job. Thank you. We are going to now take a 15-minute break, but there is an assignment. Look around your table. If there's anybody that you don't know, please introduce yourself. If you know everyone at your table, look at the table next to you. So your job is to meet one new person during this 15-minute break and engage in social media. We'll be back at 9:45. Thank you.